Segneri movie, scene 1, take 3.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.
Hello, my name is Adam Zanzi, and I'd like you to meet somebody. It's my grandfather, Chuck Segneri.
When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. If your heart is in your dreams, no excess is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true.
Cut. Cut.
Good.
That was great, Grandpa. You're a pretty good pool player.
Hey, I'm not the best in the family, Adam. My brother Carl was the pool player. I was the ping pong player. And when I was young, my dad bought a pool table. And this pool hall was closing down, and he got this pool table for practically nothing. And he brought it home and had put the pool table in the basement, and we had put a ping pong top on over the pool table. And my brother Carl, he was the great pool player. He excelled at pool, and I excelled at ping pong. And we grew up on the pool table and the ping pong table. All our friends would come over, and we had a finished basement like this, and we always had friends over, whether they were my brother's friends, your great uncle Carl, or my friends, and it was wonderful. And it was a great time of growing up, and we really, really enjoyed it. And my dad would come down and he would tell stories. He was a great storyteller. He would tell stories over about Italy when he was growing up in Italy and where they would play. They would play in the catacombs. You know what catacombs are?
Some kind of cave?
Yes, a cave where they bury the dead. And they don't bury them in the ground in the cave. They put them on shelves on the walls. And that's where my dad would play with his friends. And he told some stories that were so spooky that you couldn't believe. And it was a good time. And it was just the best time when I was growing up. This movie is called The Christmas Story, and I'll never forget when I first saw it. It brought back the memory of when I was 8 years old, and I had always wanted a BB gun, a Red Ryder BB gun rifle. And Ralphie in this story was the same way. He had always wanted one, and he thought he would never get one. And this Christmas, well, let's see what happens.
Was it in a long box like that?
Yeah, that's the exact same box.
And did you Christmas tree?
Well, I don't remember where I got it. I just remember holding it in my hands for the first time. And then I had to, naturally, a little case of BBs came with it, and that was in with the box. And I remember turning that little opening at the top and taking the BBs out and putting them down the slot in the barrel, and all the BBs ran all over the place because I didn't get them all into the box. Now Ralphie.
Hey, did you ever load it up one before?
No, never had. And Ralphie's going to do it now for the first time.
Careful.
See, and his dad.
Hey, run
You gotta
on.
cup your
See?
hand around it.
Right. See, my dad didn't tell me they run all over like his dad did.
Close it up. Close it up.
Can I try it out, Mom? Can I?
Oh, Dad, this is bad.
But outside, I still say those things are dangerous. Shut up. Put on your galoshes and your coat.
Well, that's what happened to me too. I wanted to get outside as fast as I could and try it out. And I went outside and I was looking at a target to find. And I didn't see anything around. I was maybe looking for a bird or something like that. But there was a telephone pole about 10 feet in front of our house in the front yard. And I went out there and I got about from here to where you're shooting there, Adam. And I aimed that BB gun at that telephone pole. And that BB came out of that gun and hit that telephone pole and came right back at me and hit me square in the nose. Broke my nose. And that was the first time my nose was ever broken, which happened quite often. And now, Ralphie, let's take up what happens to Ralphie.
I had one when I was 8 years old.
8 years old.
What if he hurts himself? Hey, your coat! Don't shoot any animals or birds.
Except the Bumpus' dogs.
Be careful, Ralphie.
Now, it is well known throughout the Midwest that the old man is a turkey junkie, a bona fide golly turkicanis freak. A few days before Christmas, his eyes would begin to gleam with a wild and ravenous light.
Did you like turkey too?
Yeah, I like turkey too. There we
Oh,
go.
here it goes.
Okay, Black Bart, now you get yours.
Oh my God, I shot my eye out.
Ralphie, you be careful out there. Don't shoot your eye out.
She hadn't seen. She didn't.
See, the one thing about it, the difference between what happened to him and happened to me, I didn't wear glasses, and I didn't make a cut or anything because the BB bounced right off my nose, and there didn't really leave any marks. So nobody knew, nobody has ever known that what happened was similar to what happened to Ralphie happened to me, because I didn't have any lasting effects except a little bump on my nose.
The BB must have hit my glasses. My glasses. Oh no, where are my glasses? Few things brought such swift and terrible retribution on a kid as a pair of busted glasses.
So really, that's my story too. I was Ralphie when I was 8 years old also.
Cut.
Okay.
Mom, what are you doing?
We're getting serious.
Are you recording?
We're just
No,
getting
she's
serious.
not recording. She better not be recording. I'll come after her. Give me the
Okay,
cue.
you say hi, you go, oh, I love these earrings. They make you look so grown up.
I can't say that now, can I? Oh yeah, those are cute little earrings too. Yeah, okay. They're just not the long ones, right? Okay, you're gonna come in, right? And
Hi, Grandpa.
okay, you gotta hug me. And
Just sit down.
no, you have to hug me. That's the way it is.
No kissy?
Little kissy. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Little kissy. Okay.
Better get an Academy Award for that.
You smart little kid. You got my wit. You got my wit. All right.
Should I put this on or
Here
on?
you go.
What's she gonna do with this?
I'm gonna read the paper.
Upside down?
I'm talented.
Oh, okay. All right, let's start. Let's see there. Right. Look. Hi, Ava.
Hi, Grandpa.
How you doing?
Good.
Oh, you're looking great. Oh, I love those earrings. They make you look so grown up. You getting ready to become an adult soon?
Yes, but I'm concerned about the choices I have to make in life.
Well, there's a lot of choices in life. If I had to, well, all I could tell you is one of the things that happened to me is that when I was growing up, I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I remember it was about the first time I smoked, and it was, I'll never forget it, and it probably stopped me from ever smoking cigarettes. My dad had just thrown a cigarette out on the sidewalk, and it was still lit, and he walked away, and I remember picking it up and running around the side of the house and going down underneath the porch where I used to play a lot, and I started smoking that cigarette. I thought I was really grown up then, and I remember seeing his legs from underneath the porch, and he was coming around, and I was really scared. I mean, I knew he was going to catch me. And he said, "Chucky," he called me Chucky. He said, "What are you doing under there?" And I said, "Nothing, Daddy, nothing." And he said, "Come on out." And I came out, and he said, "You're smoking, huh?" I said, "Yes." And I was expecting to really get punished, you know. And he said, "So you want to smoke?" I said, "No, I don't want to smoke, Daddy." He said, "Well, yeah, you want to smoke, you got to do it the right way." He said, "I noticed that when you were puffing, you weren't inhaling at all." And he said, "You're supposed to draw the smoke in." And he took out another full cigarette and he lit it. And he said, "I want to teach you how to smoke the right way." And he gave me that cigarette, and he said, "Now when you take a puff," he said, "draw it all that smoke in and inhale it. And that's the way smokers really smoke." And I said, "Okay." And so I took the puff and I drew it all in, and he said, "Then let it out nice and slow, and you can see the smoke coming out." And I said, "Oh, good, yeah." And I was smoking, and I was smoking in front of my dad. Oh, it was how great this was. And he said, "Keep smoking," and he made me smoke the whole cigarette. And
How big was it?
oh, it was, he had those long filter cigarettes, I remember. It was about this long. And so I probably took about 8, 9, 10 puffs on it and drawing all that smoke in. And the cigarette was probably about 3/4 short. And I started getting dizzy. And I really noticed that my stomach was doing flip-flops, and I was feeling queasy in my stomach, and I said, I don't want to smoke this anymore, Dad. And he said, "Smoke it all." And he made me finish that whole cigarette. And I was so sick after that. I threw up, and I was dizzy, and I couldn't eat for the rest of the day. And I just went to bed, and I just laid there, and the bed was going around in circles. And
Made you even more dizzy?
yeah, and that was the worst time. I really thought that they were going to have to call a doctor for me and everything, but I got over it. But what I didn't get over was the fact that I was never going to smoke again. And
That's not a very bad
yeah.
thing after
So
that.
my dad taught me a real lesson by allowing me to try something on my own without it affecting the rest of my life. And it was a wonderful thing that he did for me. So I would say, don't you go through what I went through.
I can tell it's about enough.
Right. Learn the lesson from learn through experiences from other people's, what they've had. When they've had the same experience, and you can learn from that.
Is your way out?
That's right. Oh, so you're another year older now, huh?
Yeah.
What'd you get for your birthday?
Oh, I got this really cool mountain bike. It's like purple and silver, and it has like brakes on the front and all these gears. It's really cool.
Oh my goodness. And you live up in the hilly area too, so that the mountain bike is right for you. I remember the first time I got a bike. Well, not the first bike, but the first 26-inch bike. It was a beautiful Schwinn bike. Schwinn was the name at that time for bicycles. And I rode that. We lived in the country, so I rode the bike all the time. And that's everywhere I went, it was with riding the bike. And went to school, rode the bike to school because I didn't want to take the bus.
It's that close, your school?
No, it wasn't. It was about 5-8 miles away, but I loved riding that bike. And one of the things I remember most when I first got the bike was we lived, the road in front of our house was kind of slanted downward. And I always waited for my dad to leave the house when he was going to go somewhere and drive. And I would wait for him outside the house, and when he got in his car and came out the driveway and he started driving, I would race him.
Like race him, yeah.
I would race right alongside of him because it was a rural road and there wasn't a lot of cars coming. And so it was downhill a little bit, and he would stay up with me. He wouldn't try to beat me. He would stay up with me just to see how fast, and then he would keep picking up speed, and I would have to stay up with him. And I remember I didn't have a speedometer on my bike, so I never knew how fast I was going, but my dad naturally had a speedometer in the car. And I remember him finally, after he pulling away, and I would do this over and over and over again, and he would tell me when he came home just how fast I was going. See? And finally, and I'd get up to 22, 24, 26, and I remember the fastest that he clocked me at was 32 miles an hour. I was going 32 miles an hour on that bike. Got to remember, it was slightly downhill too.
But still,
that is fast.
For a bike.
And yeah, the wind racing in your face, and that was a very, very exciting time. I remember that was probably my first big thrill as far as letting the adrenaline flow, and that was a good time. Okay.
Grandpa, I'm open. Mom tells me you were a big football star.
Yeah, I played a little football, Adam. Let's take a break and I'll tell you about it. Oh, I got it. Oh, I got it. I still got it. Oh, I don't got it. You know, my interest in football started when I was in grade school. We didn't play football in grade school, but my brother Carl, he was 6 years older than me, and he was starting halfback on the football team at Thornton High School. And I remember that's how I got really excited about football. He used to, I don't know how he did it, because I think I was the only kid brother that, but he would take me into the locker rooms with the football players, and I would see all these big, huge football players, and in the locker rooms, and I got the smell of the locker room, and I saw them play their games, and then come into the locker room and changing and taking showers, and I just got all excited about football. So when I wound up going to high school, my freshman year, I was just expected to play football because my brother was a starting halfback on the team, and it was a good time. I remember I was a pretty good football player. I remember as a freshman, I really played well, and they put me up to the sophomore team right away, and from the sophomores, I went to the varsity, played varsity football as a sophomore. And I remember my first game. It was terrible. I mean, I was up against some big boys, and I got injured the first game I started as a varsity football player. I really got injured pretty bad. I got torn ligaments in my leg. I got my nose busted really severely for the second time, and I wound up in the hospital. And it was funny because I was in the hospital, the same hospital that my dad was in, and he was in there for a peptic ulcer, and they put us in the same room, and it was really great. And, I remember all the football players coming up to visit me and see me, and my dad in the room with us again started telling his stories about the old country, and it was really a good time. But that was pretty. My dad really was concerned about me playing football after that. And I remember the next year, and naturally I wanted to play football again because I was out for the whole season when I was a sophomore. And when I was a junior, the next year I planned on playing football, and my dad said, "No, I don't want you to play football, it's too dangerous." And that was very sad for me because I had a lot of potential. And I remember our coach, Tiny Huddleston. Tiny, the name was a misnomer. That means he was just the opposite of what his name was, because Tiny Huddleston was about 6'5" and weighed about 320 pounds. And he came to the house to talk to my dad, to ask him if he would consider me playing. And he tried to tell my dad how it was a freak injury that I had last year, and I'm older and more experienced, and it wouldn't happen again. And it was really funny to see my dad, who was about 5'5" and weighed about 140 pounds, next to Tiny Huddleston, who was 6'5" and weighed over 300 pounds. And here Tiny trying to talk to my dad, placate him about me playing football. But that was a wonderful time because it made me really feel important that the big high school coach who had all these records of winning would come to our house and talk to my dad about that. So it's a good time.
Did your dad refuse?
No, he did. He was convinced. Tiny convinced him that I could play, and I went on to play a lot of good football. And that's the story of how I got involved in playing football.
I have been a rover, I have walked alone, hiked 100 highways, never found a home. Still in all I'm happy, reason is you see, once in a while, along the way, love's been good to me. There was a girl in Denver before the summer storms. Oh, her eyes were tender, oh, her arms were warm. and she could laugh away the thunder, kiss away the rain. Even though she's gone away, you won't hear me complain. There was a girl in Portland before the winter chill. We used to go a-courtin' along October Hill, and she could waft away the dark clouds, smile away the snow. Seems like only yesterday, it's down the road I go. I have been a rover, I have walked alone, hiked 100 highways, never found a home. Still in all I'm happy, the reason is you see, once in a while, along the way, love's been good to me. Over here. It's 12:45. Midnight, past midnight. 1954. I'm a senior in high school. And I'm about to do something that's really very, very scary. My parents are sleeping. They're down in the downstairs bedroom, and I'm upstairs pretending to be sleeping. I slowly get up out of bed, and I sneak slowly down the stairs past their bedroom, quietly as possible. I get past their bedroom and out the door, and it's a beautiful summer night, and all the windows are open. So I have to be very, very careful and very, very quiet. I walk slowly out to the garage, and I lift the garage door as slowly, quietly as I possibly can. And I get in front of the car, and I push it out backwards out of the driveway, down the driveway and into the street. Still very, very quietly. So far, I'm okay. Then I get up, turn the wheel of the car so that it's heading straight down the street. And we've got a slight incline down the street all the way down. And then I get behind the car and I push it. And as it starts to roll, I run around the door, open the door, and I jump in. And as the car is rolling down the hill, I wait for about 2 minutes until I'm far away from the car, from the house, and I turn on the motor, and off I go. And where am I headed? I'm headed to pick up my girlfriend, who's a car hop at Luart's Drive-In. And she gets off at 1:15, 1:30, after midnight. And I go and I pick her up and I bring her home, play a little kissy face, and then I gotta come back. And so I come driving back up the street near the house. And as I'm driving up the street, I'm about a half a mile from the house, and I turn off the engine, and I turn turn off the lights, and I coast right on in and around the house and into the driveway. And thank goodness it's a double driveway. We share our driveways with our next door neighbors, so the two driveways are in between the houses. And I make that big turn in to the driveway, and I slowly coast right into the garage and stop the car. And then I get out and I slowly pull the garage door down. And I slowly creep into the house and past my parents' bedroom and up the stairs into my bedroom. I made it. I'm safe. I've done it. And I did this every Saturday night for the whole summer. Night after night, Saturday night after Saturday night after Saturday night. The whole summer. And I never got caught. Never got caught. Until I realized we were having a party at my brother's house. This must have been 10 years later. And our next door neighbor, Wilma Spangler, who was the best friends with my mother, my stepmother, Theo, she was at the party, and she pulled me aside, and she says, "Chuck, I want to tell you a story. A story happened about 10 years ago," she said. And she said, every Saturday night, I would get up in the middle of the night, and because I had insomnia, I couldn't sleep, and I would sit by my window, looking out the driveway, and I would watch you every Saturday night sneak that car out and sneak it back in every Saturday night. And you were a joy. I look forward to you every Saturday night. You were the greatest entertainment I ever had. And she said, "I just wanted to tell you." And I looked at that woman, and I just grabbed her, and I hugged her, and I couldn't let go. Here I thought I had gotten away with it for all these years and that whole summer. And she tells me this. And the real kicker was that she was my stepmother's best friend. And she talked to my stepmother every day, and they were the closest of friends. And she never told her. Never told her. And it was just an incredible story. And hi, Adam. So you want to hear about my college days, huh? Okay. Well, Bradley University was one of the best times of my life. And when I went down to Bradley, I joined a fraternity, Theta Xi fraternity. When I pledged the fraternity, I wanted to live in the house. I wanted to get the most out of fraternity life that I possibly could. And living in the house at that time was a big luxury because they had no pledges that lived in the house when they pledged. In fact, they had a big waiting list for the actives to get into the house. We only had about 25 that lived in the house, and we had about 40 actives, and a lot of them wanted to live in the house. And when I pledged, I said that's one of the stipulations that I wanted to have when I pledged the fraternity. And apparently they wanted me bad enough that they allowed me to live in the fraternity. And I was the only pledge that ever lived in the fraternity. And I thought, this is great, man. I'm really going to get the real gist of fraternity life. Little did I know that being the only pledge in the fraternity meant that anything that anybody wanted to have done, they went to the pledging. And the pledge that was in the house was the most easy and accessible to have all this work done and what have you. Also, it wasn't very good because when I was going to Bradley, and the fraternity still used the paddle on their pledges, and the pledge paddle, and I took a few swats while I was in the house, and I'll never forget when guys would come back to the house on a Saturday evening, and they might have had a few drinks, and they're always looking for the pledge to take advantage of. And here I was. So I got a lot of swats that I really shouldn't have gotten because of that. But we had a system at the fraternity house where if a pledge felt he was being mistreated by being swatted too often, he could ask to exchange swats with the active. And this was one of the things that I did. And it was interesting because I started to be able to exchange swats with actives, and they realized that I could swat pretty hard. And these were the paddles that we used, and these are two paddles that my pledge sons, when I went active, made for me. This is to Dad Chuck 59 from son Chet 61, and this one to Dad Sig from son Paul 61. And I'll tell you, when you assumed the position and you got swatted with these paddles, I mean, this really stung. But these were ceremonial paddles. When my pledge sons went active, then they would make these paddles for their pledge fathers, and they're very, very. So I really did have sons after all. They just happened to be pledge sons. So that was a great time. The fraternity life was great because it really helped my maturity, because I got to live with all kinds of different guys, and we had all kinds of bull sessions and talked a lot and exchanged ideas and thoughts, and we did a lot of charity work for different programs in the city of Peoria, and one of the great things was we had a lot of TGIFs with sororities, and I would always wind up singing to the sororities at these TGIFs, and it was very, very enjoyable. And I'll never forget my college life and my fraternity life were two of the best times of my life. Ciao. Maybe. After college, they had the draft at that time, and none of us seemed to want to go into the service for 2 years, so we joined a Marine Corps Reserve unit down in Peoria, where I was in school. And it was interesting because six of my fraternity brothers and we all joined at the same time. And then we wound up going to Paris Island, our boot camp, all together. We were all in the same platoon, so it really helped a lot, because Paris Island in the heat of the summer in August is the most devastating place you can ever imagine. And then with the training and I'll call it brainwashing, because that's what they did. They stripped us all of our egos and all of our values that we had as sophisticated college men, and they stripped us down to the fact that all we were there for was to learn how to fight, and nothing else mattered. And they've trained us physically. I played college football, and I thought I was in good shape, but boy, after I was finished with 3 months at Paris Island, I was an incredible physical specimen. And we were on the rifle range, and so much of it was fear. They made us afraid that if we didn't perform physically and mentally and learn the way of a Marine, we could get sent back to another unit that was behind us and was still had to go through more training. So that was the biggest fear that we had, not to get sent back. We were in a platoon of 76 men, and
73 of us were college graduates, and that helped. But they treated us like dirt, is what they did. And I'll never forget, we'd have to stand at attention for hours at a time in over 100 degrees temperature, and the bugs and were just, you couldn't slap them away or anything like that. They'd just eat away at you. And we'd go on midnight runs. They'd wake us up in the middle of the night. We'd have to run 3 or 4 miles and come back, go to sleep, get up at 5 in the morning, start our training all over again. But it did make us very, very proud to be Marines. And they took, as I said, they stripped us of all of our egos and made us believe that we were the best fighting men there ever was, and they trained us that way. So that was a tremendous time, one that I'd never want to repeat, but one that I'm glad I went through. And then we'd have our reserve time in the summertime, 2 weeks. We'd go out to 29 Palms and train out there in the desert, California. And it was a good time. It was a bad time. We learned patriotism as far as our country was concerned. We learned that what we're doing and what we need to do to defend our country was right and was just, and we had to do it. And sometimes I wish the draft was still in effect so that all young men and women could serve some time for their country and learn that we have to make sacrifices for it. And I wish, as I said, I'm glad it happened, but I'd never do it again. Yeah, after the military, I got out of the military, I had to go find a job. And the first interview I ever took was with Dun & Bradstreet. And that was the first and only interview I ever took for a job. And I spent 30 years with Dun & Bradstreet. And in between, while I was working for Dun & Bradstreet, I happened to, all my buddies were getting married, and I was the last one to get married. And maybe I never would have gotten married if it wasn't that I found this beautiful woman who just loved everything I had said and just ate up all my words and just fed my ego something beautiful. And her name was Lori Carroll. And we had 3 daughters, and every one of them was fantastic. And she got transferred to St. Louis from Dun & Bradstreet in Chicago, and built our house here in Chesterfield in 1976, and decided to stay here and raise our kids. It was a great move, great decision. And Lori took care of those kids fantastic, and she's been a great supporter for me, and I love her dearly, and it was a marriage made in heaven. Thank you, honey. I love you, and I always will. And then I discovered tennis here in St. Louis, and it's the love of my life besides my wife and my daughters and my grandkids. But this tennis has kept me young and alive, and after retiring from Dun & Bradstreet, I went to work for this medical laboratory because I love to drive and I love to run around and be free. And this job I've had for 10 years, and it's fantastic. I'm able to play all my tennis during the day, and I work there in the evening, and I probably will keep doing it until I die. And that's a winner.
What you have just seen is a documentary on my grandfather, Chuck Segneri. This was the first full-length feature that I ever made, and I hope you enjoyed it. But do not think just me, but also my grandfather, Chuck Segneri, who surprisingly did a tremendous job. So I hope that you enjoyed Segneri, and I hope you enjoy all my other further projects that I will make in the future. I'm Adam Zanzi. Good night.
Say something. Say something.
Adam, this is an unbelievable sacrifice I just made for you, and I hope you realize.
And this is going to be Adam's first movie, and when he's a big famous producer, director.
Yeah, if that happens.
We'll all be looking on it.
If that happens.
It will happen. Adam's going to be Steven Spielberg #2, and that's a wrap.
His name's not.
My name is Lori Segneri, and I'm Grandma.
Okay.
I'm heading out of here. I gotta get away from you people.
Oh, fine. See if I care.
Yeah.
Okay, nice to see you.
And now the end is near, and soon I'll face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I've traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I've planned each chartered course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing. To think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me, I did it my way. For what is a man, what has he got, if not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. Yes, it was my way.
That's a wrap.